I invent for AI to replicate human vision.
I invent for well-being.
To analyze genome sequences.
For contactless health monitoring.
To accelerate computing.
To make software path-free.
To reinforce privacy.
To integrate renewable energy.
To build efficient solar cells.
To reduce food wastage.
I invent for an energy efficient future.
Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us this evening. Wishing all the women out there a very, very, very happy Women's Day. I'm Kritika Saxena. TCS or Tata Consultancy Services is one of the world's largest employers of women. Today, 1 out of 3 TCSer is a woman, and we expect this proportion to only grow further. According to a 2020 UN report, 43% of STEM graduates in India are women. However, only 14% are employed in premier research institutions. Despite this, women scientists have been advancing scientific knowledge in a commendable way. So, on the occasion of Women's Day, we want to honor women in science. So, over the next 45 odd minutes, we will talk to leading scientists and researchers. We will not only aim to understand a little deeper what a career in research or science can look like, we also want to understand the upcoming cutting edge research that is around the corner, what are the future technologies to look forward to, and how women are together building a better tomorrow. So, I have a power pack panel with me. Let me start by introducing everybody who is going to be talking to me today. Joining me is Vijayalakshmi Mahadevan. She is a professor at the Institute of Bioinformatics and Applied Biotechnology, Bangalore. Her research is focused on understanding epigenetic signaling in cancer and other diseases. Hi, Vijaya. Joining me
Hi,
as well today is Dr. Lipika Day. She's a principal scientist at TCS Research with about 26 years of experience. She is currently heading research in the field. Her areas of interest are natural language processing, artificial intelligence application, machine learning, and analytics of multi-structured data. She is a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering. We also have Swadha Anand, who is a senior scientist at TCS Research. She has more than about 10 years of research experience in the domain of computational life sciences. She joined TCS Research in life sciences in October 2014 as a scientist, and since then has worked in the computational metagenomics and preventive healthcare R&D domain. We also have Varsha and Apte. She's a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Bombay. She joined as a faculty in the Computer Science and Engineering Department in IIT Mumbai in 2002. Her areas of interest are performance analysis of computing systems and networks and building applications for online programming education. So that's a heady CV and a power packed panel of all the ladies that are joining in today. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here and spending the evening, the Women's Day evenings with us. I want to come to all of you individually to start with a little more of a personal question. So let me start with you, Varsha. Tell me a little bit on why you chose a career as a scientist or as a researcher. What was the journey? Because when you started, it wasn't really easy. It wasn't a very typical career to enter for a woman. Did you face biases? And how do you think things are different today than they were, say 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah, so this part of my story is going to be short because I was just extremely fortunate to be in a family where my father is a scientist, he's a retired scientist now, retired physicist, and I was pretty much, you can say, being groomed for a career in research. That's the only thing we as the children in the family knew. And so I was just progressing towards that. I think I faced some issues of expectation being different in college and university in India. Um, but I had such a strong backing from home that I had the strength to not get phased when sometimes in classmates or other people would doubt that a girl should go and do such things. So that was and also somehow sometimes children specifically do not want to do what their parents did. You see a lot of children of doctors who will do anything but go into medicine. Somehow that didn't happen to me. I was a naturally studious person, and pursuing a career where you are always engaged in studying and doing something new was exciting. And frankly, beyond that, there weren't too many hurdles in my life. So I will not take too much airspace on this question and let this be realized.
I hate it when people are asked that, what are XYZ traits that you need to have, or why being a woman is an advantage in XYZ career. But, for women or for future leaders of tomorrow, my next question is to Swadha. What would be the advice that you would give to women who are pursuing a career in science or research? What would you sort of talk to them in terms of what are the skill sets that they need to have, what is the upskilling that they need to constantly do, and you can also share your personal experiences on how you had to constantly upskill yourself throughout your career.
Yeah. So I think as a woman or a man in research, basically you have to keep abreast with what technologies are coming new and what new technologies are coming into place and how do you upskill yourself pertaining to those technologies. In fact, I feel whatever I have looked into during my PhD and postdoc days and then coming into TCS, that what you are pursuing as a part of research also keeps changing. And you have to change accordingly. Otherwise, whatever research you are doing will not be acceptable in the community as such. So that is the professional part of it. At a personal part also, you have to keep grooming yourself in terms of there are various things that are required as far as being a researcher is concerned, and one of it is that you have to spend more time into thinking and giving it a thought process also, in addition to really when you do a hands-on work too, you have to be really passionate about what you're doing. And yes, you will, as even the Dr. Varsha also mentioned, there will be certain hurdles and certain not. In my case, also, I've not faced any major ones because my family was a huge support. But yes, if that is there, then you have to keep, making yourself strong to really start believing in yourself and taking it forward. So that is also very important, that when you are pulled down, you should be able to pull yourself up. And yes, there will be many people who will help you with it too. So I think that is what I'll say about it.
When you're pulled down, you must be able to pull yourself up. That's a beautiful
Or maybe take help
point
from
there.
someone to pull yourself up.
Absolutely. Lipika, taking from that point, where do you feel there are still glass ceilings when it comes to, pursuing a career in STEM? The statistics that I just spoke about. 14% eventually get into research institutions. Where are the gaps prevalent, and what's your personal experience been as well?
Well, I think one of the key issues I feel is our kind of adherence to stereotypes, or at least trying to please people with stereotypes. One of the most important things that is required to break the glass ceiling is to break the stereotypes about biases. There are biases, and again, when I say there are biases, I am talking of a lot of implicit biases that are there in the minds of people, which may not be spoken exactly. It is there in the uh, working organization, it's there in the family, it's there in our minds itself, and all of these have to be tackled and broken. So, one of the key factors is that you are not only passionate about your work, you also have to be professional in your work. So, work has to come first when you have committed to something may not be at the cost of your personal life always, and so therefore there are always these activities of prioritizing time management. These are an essential part of your life. We have to accept it. Once we get all these things in place, and of course you are well equipped, you have the merit to be in a place, you have to assert yourself to get the position that you deserve. And then I also find that today's organizations are coming up with a number of measures which you should be aware of and then make use of them in order to move towards breaking the glass ceiling.
Okay. So, in keeping with the conversation around breaking the glass ceiling, and, we all have to accept that it still exists in fractions. Professor BJ, coming to you, what to your mind, can companies, research institutions do to ensure that, that equality or that 14% can, come up to 40 or 50% very soon?
Yes, Kritika, as said by the other panelists, this is a very grave problem in Indian science, I mean, in science in particular, and particularly in Indian science. So, in order for women to thrive in science and take up science as a career, organizational support is very, very important, as we all know. So, if I were to choose an organization, if we were to attract young women into research, the primary thing is they are stuck by the socio psychological factors which make them pursue a family life. But as you go further to break careers, there should be a lot of encouragement in the form of fellowships and scholarships which can get them into this. And also, the fear that science is a very long pursuit in life and it takes years and years for you to get across the path as a researcher, as a postdoc, and as a faculty fellow and launch your career is a looming fear among many of the people to take a career and step. So, if organizations come together, which most of the organizations have realized, that attracting and retaining women in sciences requires a multidimensional action to change the institutional culture as the whole and then feel that women are included, recognized, and heard about in the institutions. It's a very, very important. And institutions, I think, should foster a more collaborative, supportive scientific community. A very structured organization can actually identify goals for itself and for the individuals involved in science in the institution. Towards this, for a female career scientist to come, I think all organizations should have infrastructure and seed grants to start the study, enormous infrastructural support, and opportunities for an academic researcher to support and take PhD students, and support and encouragement for collaborations at the national level, at the industrial level, at the international level. And I also think the institute should have well defined scientific policy. The organization as a whole should have a definite scientific culture. I feel there is a big gender gap because the exposure to science is still less among women students. They need to have inspirational role models to pursue science, and therefore an international ambience and exposure to children at the level of school and college, and support to several seminars that do an outreach program are things that I think will definitely play a very significant role in increasing the gender gap and to get more people to do science. So this is the outreach that India has also embarked on for the past few years.
You raised a very important point. Let me come to Varsha as a follow up. There are several things that we can put into place. Yes, there are gaps. Yes, there are biases, but the fact is, what's next? And the points that Vijay just laid out are very critical. Be it fellowship, be it organizational support, be it seed funding. What to your mind are those measures that are already happening, and are organizations, institutions, and academia coming together to be able to scale research? And is diversity a subject or a conversation that we are having amidst this?
Yeah, it's certainly a much more talked about subject than it was 20 years ago when I joined IIT. With the newer generations joining, there's a lot more awareness. So the conversation has increased. But I mean, the numbers are still, as you said. I was just looking at the numbers. They're very strange in IIT at least. So at the undergraduate and postgraduate level, we have something from 15 to 20% women students. At PhD STEM, PhD, we have 30% PhD students, women PhD students. And then at faculty level, it goes down back to about 15, 16%. So it's very interesting as to there is that as they call it, there's a leaky pipeline there, that women are going and getting PhDs, but then they are not choosing research careers. I think the government actually does do a few things. There have always been DST fellowships, very specially for women who have had to take a break for raising children and then need a segue back into research career. After that break, they may have a break in publication. So there's a very nice scheme. It has been there for 15, 20 years. I think maybe a lot of women don't know about it. That's one thing. One of the things that at least the elite institutes could do and all other institutes could do is just really go out there and publicize these measures. We also do need to do focused recruitment drives. I know that IIT Delhi currently is doing a focused recruitment drive. There is an advertisement out there just for women faculty. Those sort of things help in raising hopes and confidence levels of women who might, for no reason, be self-eliminating. I think there needs to be, as I think one of the other panelists said, there need to be role models. Otherwise, you see stereotypes. You see a successful researcher, you imagine a male. I think the word needs to go out there to women that research is a skill like anything else. It's not a gift. uh, at least you can become a fairly competent researcher. To win a Nobel Prize, maybe there is something else, but you can become a fairly competent researcher if you just train yourself. Yeah, but it is not an inherently super risky or super, I am not such a genius, so I should not do research, or some these sort of self-eliminating ideas shouldn't crowd women's minds. That's my one of my explanations as to why women go up to PhD and then for some reason are not supported by the social environment to then go take research jobs. They are maybe seen as risky, or they feel that because I feel that the representation in corporate is much better. And to get to the heart of the problem, we need to understand why. I mean, you just said one third of TCS research is women. That's amazing. Why is TCS research one third, and why is IIT Bombay 15%? It's we I don't have the answers. I think it is about sending the message out that research is a skill that you can work hard for. Just like anything, once you can tell a woman that you can work hard, then she can do it. Every woman can do it.
Absolutely. 36% of TCSers are women, across the world. And that brings, Varsha has actually made a very interesting point. And let me ask you, Lipika, how is research in industry different from research in academia? How have the two evolved? And do you think that technology may have played a role in, perhaps to an extent fixing that leaky pipeline? I'm very glad Varsha used that term leaky pipeline, because that's exactly, that's a perfect way to put that.
Yeah, first of all, let me address the industrial research part. Yes, it is different. While research is about knowing new things, solving unsolved problems, in industrial research, there's the added aspect of taking this research towards building new products, processes, services, or improving upon the products, processes, services that are out there. So, when we are actually talking about industrial research, it doesn't just end in writing the paper, solving the problem, or coming up with a patent. It's also about following the entire pipeline from conceptualization of the problem, the solution, to taking it to building prototypes and then taking it out for a business proposition. Now, therefore, we have multiple stakeholders in an industrial research system. And what I personally find that is fascinating also, and that is an important trait for an industrial researcher also, is that one need not be an expert in all the activities, right from the research problem, the core technology problem, to how it is conceptualized in a product, to user experience, to validating the technology. But one has to take interest in every aspect of the journey of the research to the end product. So, having an idea about the entire value chain helps in one's own research, knowing about the problems, knowing about the pitfalls, and therefore solving it. That is one important aspect of industrial research. The value proposition has to be there towards solving some of the practical problems. Now, beyond that, uh, what was the other question you asked with respect to this?
Lipika, the other thing that I'll actually get Swadha in as well about that is I feel technology has played a big role in enabling diversity to be balanced, to become a conversation, and it's sort of the leaky pipeline that we talk about. Will technology play a role in the coming years to fix that?
Well, plenty of examples of where technology helps. In TCS itself, we know that over the years, how technology has played a big role in ensuring transparency in every step of the journey, be it simply about knowing about the opportunities. In fact, Varsha mentioned that there are enough number of schemes, but possibly not too many women know about those schemes. So we have taken a big step towards advertising all the positions that are open anywhere, all the technology positions, leadership positions that are available, and technology plays a big role. Of course, technology as such plays a big role in the way, social media, constant connectivity, everything helps us by being in touch with the technology, actually enabling ourselves to remain abreast of what is happening. These are, of course, the other aspects of technology that helps. And yeah, Swadha can also take over more.
I think I'll just add to what Dr. Lipika just said too. So basically, as Dr. Varsha was also mentioning, that there are many schemes, and even when we were pursuing research in academia, we came across a lot of schemes which are specific for women. And I mean, when the technology is developed in such a way that women kind of get those information clear, and they are able to figure out that okay, these are the schemes we can use, and we can go ahead in our career in research. That becomes important. Like there are some of the Inspire fellowships and all that, which are also specific, and they are very important in bringing up initial careers in women. So that is also very important. And to add, if we talk about TCS per se, so there are again a lot of technological developments that can really help in understanding that okay, what all positions are available, where all I can fit, and how can go, and that holds true for all the companies, I believe. And I think in that sense, the technology development is very important as far as, in general, a person's development is concerned, not just in case of women. Secondly, as I mentioned in my last answer also, that one has to keep abreast of whatever is going around, whatever technological developments are happening. And for that also, technology itself is needed, because you need to keep a track of what all is going on, and for that we need to understand what are the recent developments and all, and technology brings that to our homes, so that is very important in itself too.
Professor Vijay, coming to you now, there are a lot of strides, and the fact of the matter is, in the last 2 to 3 years, the government and academia together have made a lot of strides in bridging gap between how research is done in India versus how it is done in the West. But are there still lessons that we can learn from the West? And similarly, do you believe that technology has truly been embedded and used by academia, and will this help us scale on the global academia or research footprint in the coming decade?
Yeah, I would like to take your second question first, Kritika. Technology has played a very significant role in the way research is done across the globe, and more so in India when networking and collaboration in terms of student input and in terms of research investigators has enormously increased. More so after the pandemic, when face to face meetings have totally vanished, and people can make use of these networks in order to do this. So, technology has impacted the way one accesses papers, one accesses research material across the globe, and the different open source consortia that have put in data, the open source data, and the technology to access this, the enormous advances in the cloud computing area, particularly for somebody like me who works at the interface of biology, computing, and other technologies. These have been real boon to accelerate research from our labs. And therefore, this helps students who are quite imbibed in technology to understand the global science, the advancements in science as they happen, rather than to wait for a printed booklet which comes to them a fortnight or a month later. Which is very promising as one sees it very clearly. And to your first question on bridging the gap in genders in academic research, the government and the corporates have put in quite a lot of effort, as you said, and it seems to work today. Like the statement made by Varsha on the women's scientist scheme, we see women with 2 children coming in with higher levels of motivation to do science and be very productive despite the several family barriers they have set. In our own institute, we have seen a number of young married women who achieve much better than their peers despite the different barriers that the society has put on them. These schemes have really worked. The Inspired Fellowships have really worked. And I want to also record my statement that the TCS Research Scholar Program has been a great boon to my lab to attract people to come into PhD. So there are several corporate grants and several initiatives in the government which have worked. But are we at the global scale? No, we still need to make people understand that Indian science carries a value. Indian bioscience has achieved quite a bit in the last 2 decades, and we have internationally well acclaimed faculty and international level infrastructure. But this awareness should reach rather than carrying a tag of a degree from some mediocre quality institute abroad. It will be good to be imbibed in a good research environment to do this. And as I said, the several outreach programs are trying to show how interdisciplinary Indian science has grown, how efficient the publications have been, and how well we are moving in the forefront. But we still have a long way to go to popularize this, to make girls believe that science is a worthy pursuit to take up. And I'm sure that in the years to come, we'll be able to bridge the gap in a much better way.
Vijay, you mentioned TCS and the collaboration that we have had. And I'm not saying this that because this is a TCS platform, but we have seen, you know, exceedingly beautiful collaborations create game-changing technologies. So that brings me to my next point. And Varsha, let me ask you that. Do you believe that that is where the future lies? That it is industry and academia collaboration that will enable us or the country as a whole to redefine the future research in the next decade?
Yes, certainly, industry. I mean, I have been another major beneficiary of TCS grants. I have actually almost 15 out of my 20 years in IT Bombay. I have had one TCS grant or the other. And it has enabled not only me, but in fact, the women students who used to work with me. It has so many positive compounding effects. You know, if I get a grant, there are students who work with me, they go abroad. There are women who would never have gone to some conference and presented, gotten that confidence. I mean, that was enabled. Funding of any sort, resources of any sort, of course, always go a long way. I think whether it comes from corporations or government, corporations, certainly there is a better intellectual exchange of different goals that happens. Different pressing problems from private parties come to private industry, comes to academia. But I think the bottom line, of course, is to throw resources at any problem that needs to be solved. Resources do make a big difference, and a focused intent and expenditure of those resources. I mean, just throwing the resources doesn't always help. You have to then use them specifically for the goal that you set out. So that helps. I would say industry and academia in terms of problems exchange, and if you see that there are more women, let's say in corporate, that can be another inspiring thing for PhD students or undergraduate postgraduate students. They can also see those role models, that if I do a PhD, I can not only maybe be in academia, but I can be like Dr. Lipika Day, or I can be like Swadha. Those are also career goals. So there are numerous ways that these sort of collaborations can help, no doubt.
The roadmaps and the paths are opening up. I feel that we have some of the best scientific minds in the country on this panel. So I want to take some time to discuss your works as well. So Lipika, let me come to you. You've been instrumental in designing several industrial applications that use language technologies. Some of these applications can directly measure the business outcome of the knowledge-driven decisions that have been taken. So can you give us some examples of such applications?
Sure. So, as we all know today, social media drives our lives. We are each one of us much of a producer of information.
Okay, I think we've lost Lipika. So I'm going to hold that question and wait for Lipika to come back. But Swadha, let me come to you. You have worked in the area of genomics and metagenomics for development of cost-effective, preventive, and personalized healthcare. So, help us understand what that entails. What are some of the solutions that you have developed that can help in achieving the larger goal of affordable healthcare, which is embedded at several economies and countries level?
Right. Okay, so first of all, the present work that we are pursuing. So when we talk of bugs, microbes, we usually think, okay, a lot of ideas come into the areas of infection and how the health can be affected by these microbes, etc. But nowadays, mostly we know that these bugs are also beneficial to us, and they do a lot of functions within us which are very important. And that is the aspect we are trying to leverage to get a lot of diagnostic and therapeutic solutions out, which can in a very non-invasive way, and they are even a cost effective methods of doing that, can help us in a lot of diagnostics in terms of various disease conditions and otherwise let's say other conditions that our body faces. And in addition to that, we can also look at the therapeutic areas, like let's say in present scenario, a lot of work is being pursued by various companies as well as academia alike in the areas of probiotics and getting them into business. And most people are themselves becoming a very well aware of the various probiotics, but often what they complain is that these probiotics don't work for everyone. And the primary reason is that these probiotics are not personalized. We are using same probiotics for everyone. So whatever our solutions do, one of the outcomes is to get personalized therapeutics also, which are basically more like for each person how things work. and that is the personalized and preventive healthcare basically is what is important in present scenario, and more acknowledged by the scientific community also. Further, when we talk of well-being, it is equally important to understand that it's not just us, it's the environment around us that should also be healthy. And we are also developing certain solutions with regards to efficient management of waste using microbes, especially pertaining to handling different pollutants that come out as a part of industrial waste. And yes, so they are also having their own hazardous consequences for individuals and animals, plants, everything actually. And that is another area we are working on. So lots of areas pertaining to healthcare in different dimensions we are looking into. So I think that's
What does this mean in terms of real world action, affordable healthcare? What sort of could be the end result, or how will it
yeah.
look
So
like
basically,
in adoption?
right. So basically, when you talk about personalized healthcare, it's a very important aspect pertaining to the fact that when we look at different individuals, access of different things is different in different pertaining to, let's say, even the financial conditions of a country or the kind of dietary patterns, lifestyle that exists in various countries. There is a lot of differentiation. And when you talk about personalized strategies, you can actually customize your solutions to different countries depending on whether they are developing countries, developed countries, accordingly even design their overall diets, etc., which can help you change the overall health conditions of an individual. Further, when we talk about affordable healthcare, as an on you go on simpler methods of looking at healthcare, let's say what I was talking about. So if it pertains to very simple methods of sample collections, etc., the considerably down and everybody can really afford these healthcare measures. And one can even have a better health using probably even for people who don't have access to many of the resources. So that is really important. And yes, so that's another part. So preventive healthcare is also important nowadays. Why to spend so much money on treating diseases when you can prevent a disease from happening? So that's another aspect. So I think preventive, affordable healthcare with personalized strategies is very important.
Okay. Varsha, coming to you, you worked in performance analysis of computing systems and networks and building applications for online programming education. What is the real world impact of the work that you're doing? How do you feel the space has grown? And, simply put, for laymen, does it make computing systems faster and more accurate?
Yeah, so I have two areas of interest right now. The first one, which is in performance analysis and networks and systems, that is fundamentally about making systems more efficient. You have a bunch of resources. You need to make good use of the resources. You can't have a data center that is, just sitting idle, only 20% used. So my research helps in doing the analysis around how well your applications are performing and how well they are using the resources while giving you that performance. So if you use some of the tools and techniques I have developed, this is the part that you will be able to provide a fast and efficient service to your customers as well as use your resources well. That is it's a very practical field. So the impact is kind of self-evident. The other one I've been engaged in for a few years is I have developed with a lot of students. I've had them develop an application for auto grading of programming assignments. This is a pure sort of educational support technology, and I'm hoping to take it to a lot of on an outreach initiative where we will be hosting a lot of programming lab exercises, so that another kind of hands-on exercises, so that it's not only IIT students that get a lot of interesting problems thrown at them. We are taking this to the rest of the country, and this has been an initiative. In fact, it was part of it was supported by Tata through the Tata TCTD initiative in IIT Bombay. And my colleague, also another woman, Professor Kameshwari, and I have been working on this for a while. I do. My field is inherently practical, so it has an impact. But I wanted to add that being probably among I mean everybody is in research here, but my research is inherently tied to teaching also. When you're in academia, you are working with students, And I think the impact that an academic researcher has through a multiplying effect that the academic researcher has through training so many students, hopefully inspiring some of them to become good, not only good in their subjects but hopefully do research in that subject. I talked to women often doing masters and so on, trying to convince them that hey, you are very good, you are very innovative and hardworking, you should do a PhD. Sometimes I have succeeded. So the opportunity that a teacher in a research setting gets to actually make more people go into research is, I feel, even a bigger impact that I am very fortunate that I'm able to have.
I completely could not agree more, Varsha. I'm always awe-inspired by the kind of impact and the true, ingrained impact that academia and the teachers can have, in the development of countries and economies, for that matter. I want to come back to this point if we have time, but let me bring in Vijay as well, and go a little bit into her work. Vijay, I believe you've used next generation sequencing approaches, live cell imaging, and high throughput microscopy to dissect the role of chromatin modifications during the onset of diseases and the progression. So COVID-19 effectively made us understand the importance of genome sequencing in disease detection and management. So can you give us examples of your work that might have impact on prevention, detection, or management of diseases? And say 10 years from now or in the years to come, will we be able to stay ahead of the curve? I mean, we can't say that we'll predict another pandemic, but I mean, will this enable us to at least be closer to doing that?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting question, Kritika. My work, as you said, uses multi tools. It's at the interface of biosciences and medical sciences. With a strong interdisciplinary approach, we use high end imaging, we use genomics, we use AI and machine learning in order to predict nuclear morphologies that may come. So, what I do basically is epigenetics, which talks about the impact of external factors, particularly not involving changes in the sequence of the DNA. We talk about changes in the histone proteins around which the DNA winds, or the other environmental factors, the stress factors that cause a change on the genome. Unlike the genome that is very well known, this layer called the epigenome is quite plastic. It can be reprogrammed by environmental factors, dietary changes, exogenous factors, and these involve changes in the health patterns as well as in the disease progression. One of which we are addressing the lab in terms of progression of cancer, particularly cancers of the gastrointestinal tract. And these epigenetic factors cause abnormal changes in the expression of several genes. They switch on or switch off several of these genes. But the beauty of the whole exercise, the exquisite nature of this is that these changes can be reversed very well. Therefore, today, epigenetic therapy is evolving as one of the most prominent therapies. It's a very promising therapies. DNA methylation inhibitors, histone deacetylase inhibitors, histone methylation inhibitors have been experimental set across several clinics in the West to see if one could reverse leukemia. There are a lot of success stories from the Harvard Med School and the Johns Hopkins School. So in that connection, sequencing is a main tool. The question that you asked, what strategies will you use in disease diagnosis? Yes, we work on a particular problem of patients who carry mutations in the tumor suppressor gene P53. So, will I be able to get typical genomic signatures from these patients that one can design inhibitors for this once I know that cancer has the onset of cancer has happened? Or can I use epigenetic inhibitors to stop the progression of the cancer by means of this genomic information? Or knowing this and linking it to the dietary pattern and the workout patterns of the individual, can we design dietary interventions, stress reduction techniques which can bring about a change in the epigenome? So, therefore, we are very much at the interface of diagnosis, at the interface of therapy as well. In another work where we are working on epithelial to mesenchymal transition of the cancer cells, we encounter cellular populations which try to move into other organs, causing a metastasis. We are now trying to look at the characteristics of these populations to stop them to do the process of extravasation into the other organs also. So one uses a set of microfluidics, high throughput microscopy, and a large amount of genomic sequencing information. The COVID 19 that you mentioned has a very interesting epigenetic aspect. The ACE2 receptor was the talk of the town when COVID 19 came into the world. And there is a strong DNA methylation and epigenetic phenomenon associated with the ACE2 receptor. And this seems to drive the patterns of viral infection in patients with comorbidity. Therefore, the epigenetic influence of this, while studied, will give us a very good diagnostic handle. Therefore, we feel personalized medicine, knowing the type of mutations that the patient is involved, which should lead to designing of targeted sequencing panels and specifically tailored therapy work for these people, and precision medicine will be the possible solid outputs from this type of work. And we are very happy that there has been good handle to move on in the right direction to address such problems also.
I'm going to try to come back to Lipika. We are a little short on time and we have audience joining in as well. So let's take a couple of questions. We have Akanksha Chaturvedi joining from business today. Akanksha, you can unmute yourself, switch on your video, and you'll have to direct who you're asking the question to. And yes, ask your question. Akanksha, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Has frozen. Okay, so I'm just going to continue with a couple of other questions that we have gotten in. Now, Swati Khandelwal from Z Business has asked specifically to Varsha. Varsha, do you believe that pay parity is something that continues in research and academia? And what can women researchers, what can leaders do to be able to bridge that gap?
So pay parity in the government, if you are at the same position, formal position will not exist by definition because government scales are very fixed. But I do believe it exists in an indirect way that the higher positions are not involved, not occupied by women. It's sometimes again in an academic situation in the government where you have to sort of apply. It's not a natural promotion process. You have to apply to higher posts. There's a kind of a leaky pipeline there. There are the fraction of assistant professors that are women versus the fraction of associate professors that are women. It becomes smaller. Fraction of professors that are women, it becomes smaller. And the even higher positions of heads and deans, which in government do not come with more pay, but if I may substitute pay for more authority, more prestige, that decreases dramatically. So the parity there is absolutely not there. And what should one do? Again, I think here, there is a lot I can keep saying that.
Am I audible?
But I think the institutes also have to proactively seek out women when you see that that gap is there. And if you see a qualified woman, for some reason she is not applying for higher positions, you should plant that thought in that person's mind, because I think people will do that easily if it is a man. There might be some male colleague who also is not interested, maybe says, no, I don't want to do that, I don't want to be head, I don't want to be direct. But they will say that person will get encouragement more, that person will get expectations thrown on them more, that so many years you should now take up an administrative position, you should go for more authority, and so on. That may not happen to women, and that part, that intangible expectation raising, that happens to men very easily, that should get done to women also. Somebody should go to women also, say, you are totally qualified, you should go for this higher position, and we will be the ones who will take you if you do that. So yeah, I think parity is there, and it does need to be fixed, and we have to be proactive about it.
We have a
Parity is
question
not
coming
there.
in
Sorry,
from.
parity is not there.
Absolutely got your point, Varsha. We have a question from Shreya Bhandari from Hindustan Times. The question is for Lipika. Lipika, how important is flexibility at work? The question is that do you think the pandemic has brought in a different level of flexibility that empowers women to succeed in their careers?
Well, I have a divided opinion about it. It sort of, depends on the situation of the women. So while I myself definitely like the flexibility, it is mostly in terms of, saving travel time, and traveling to numerous meetings actually ate up some of the time, the traveling time particularly. So in that sense, yes, but I also have to add that hearing from multiple women, particularly the younger women who have to attend to children at home, elderly at home, I don't think the flexibility is something that they are enjoying. Coming to office at a fixed hour, spending times over there, mingling with their peers, actually provided them a support system, both in terms of thought process as well as immunity from the thoughts of running household, which unfortunately majorly lies with the women. Now if the women can learn how to tackle that part, how to actually do their own work despite being at home, if they can provide that atmosphere to them, then yes, flexibility is good. But without that, right now I think we need more statistics to actually say for how many people under what situation, how many women under what situation it is good. I don't think it has been uniformly good for all women.
Absolutely, that's a good point, Lipika. I believe we have Akanksha back. So let's try to see if we can get her again.
Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
We can hear you, Akanksha. You can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy I attended this session. There were so many insightful things I've learned from you all. So there's this question, like uh, like ma'am said, that there's the leaky pipeline problem when it comes to women moving ahead, at higher levels of research, be it research academia or industry in science and technology in particular. But many researchers have, showed the fact that women lack motivation right from school to entering into sciences, and this can also be observed from the number of women opting for PCM or PCB in 11th and 12th standard. How can we actually fix that? How can we actually motivate more women to see opportunities when it comes to science and technology? This is a question of the whole.
So I think let Varsha answer that, since the leaky pipeline point was brought by Varsha. Varsha, if you could hear the question, you can take that.
Yeah, I think the question was that there's women at an early age don't seem to be that motivated to get into sciences. How can we fix that? Again, speaking from the IITs, I think absolutely fantastic decision of the supernumerary quota for girls got done a couple of years ago, and that has started. Our batch size has increased, and the very very sad numbers that we had batches in computer science with zero women, maybe like 3 4 years. I mean, it was down and up, but sometimes as recently as a few years ago we had literally zero women. So now you can be assured that at least that will go. So there is a good quota beginning. So those measures are just required. I think the way to sort of get out of the groove that we seem to be stuck in with so many years of doing things without trying to do things at least at the higher elite institutes level without quota. I think the realization dawned on everybody that we just have to do this. So again, because without this role models were not created, we have to, I mean, there's a computer science word, right? We have to bootstrap somewhere. So you have to start with, and you have to seed something. So slightly larger number of women will now enter the institute. Hopefully that will create more and more, the funnel will be wider for every stage of this pipeline. Yes, there will be leakages, but the input number has to be large. The input number has to be large, and at every other steps, it should get fixed. Of course, I will say one thing, that such a bad number of fraction is specific to these institutes. I mean, in the many of the colleges, state colleges and private colleges that we see around I mean, I'm from Mumbai and in Maharashtra and so on. So those have fairly healthy ratios of women versus men. So we again have to ask there that what is happening there. If there, for let's say engineering, a good number of women are going. Uh, why don't we see that, for example, even at our postgraduate? Undergraduate is where the quota has been started, but even the postgraduate, the fraction is nowhere near half. So where is this happening? I think there is. It's still comes back to society where uh, parents and everybody are happy with smaller goals achieved by women. I feel there have to be more women visible that are achieving even higher scales, and it should make parents and siblings of girls very ambitious, and not be happy with the okay, I got this engineering degree, now I'm not going to I'm just going to do something else. They should also feel the same killer spirit to then again compete for, let's say, something like IIT Bombay Masters or somewhere else where their male peers are going. We are doing, government keeps realizing, and we do stuff, but some way to inspire society itself to encourage and expect the same from girls. If you set those expectations, girls will also chase them.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. I hope that answers your question, Akanksha. I believe we've completely run out of time, so I just want to take very quick closing comments. So, in a few lines, I want each of you to share with us, if you want to meet your younger self today, what would you say to them? So, my first question to Viji, if today you met who Viji was, when she was taking the decision to, should I pick science, arts, commerce, what career stream should I take? Your younger self, whenever you face hardships, what would you tell her today?
Yeah, I would say the world is quite large. There are much larger things to explore, and one needs constantly to be driven by self motivation to reach frontiers. And that there should be no hurdle to be faced as a hurdle. There are enough support mechanisms and exciting signs to go out and face the world, because it gives you a lot of dignity and achievement and a sense of purpose in life. Yeah.
Question then to Swadha. Swadha, message to your younger self.
Yeah. So I think my message to my younger self would be the same, that what even Vijay said, and something to add to that, that basically keep believing in yourself and keep moving. And yes, there might be certain hurdles and you can pass them, and basically just keep moving. I think you should not really be too bogged down by whatever is surrounding you. There might be situations, as we have all discussed also, where you are discouraged to pursue science as a career because it goes a long way, it takes a long time for it, etc. But I think just keep moving, because that's what drives you. And I think at the age of 15, that is what drove me. So I think I would just advise myself to do that.
I think what you said at the beginning, Swadha, in your first answer is very accurate, that you have to utilize the support system that you have. You have to be able to reach out. Lipika, same question to you. And, I want to take this chance to very quickly give us a run through of the kind of done and how game changing that has been in the last few years.
So, yeah, the work I do is basically in natural language processing, which has, progressed by leaps and bounds over the last few years. Specifically, the point is we are all consumers as well as producers of information today on social media, and all organizations are interested to listen to people to know what they are liking, what they are loving, what they want, what kind of new things they are waiting for, what are the unsolved problems. Now, while we are expressing, can we have a computational mechanism to automatically understand what is being talked about and create alerts and signals for organizations? That is what my research area is. It's difficult because we don't say the same thing in the same way, even when we are ourselves repeating it. And so, therefore, it's a very difficult problem for computers to solve, but that's why it's a challenging problem and interesting problem. Coming to the other part of your question, it was always challenge and love for the new as well as love for logic and reasoning that drove me. So there would be no new messages to a younger self. It is same, no regrets. Don't be scared, don't be stereotyped, don't be scared to break stereotypes. Just dream and work towards fulfilling your dreams.
Beautiful. And the final question then to Varsha, if your younger self was standing next to you today, what would the message be, or what would the life lesson be?
So I have a very specific message because after 12th standard, I made a choice to do pure science. Actually, I'm right now kind of in an engineering department, but my degree is in BSc, is BSc in maths, and then I did a master MSc. I would go back and tell myself that go for engineering. It was a bit of a stereotype decision that I did. I was going to probably get admission only in mechanical or chemical or something, and in those times, there was some kind of an aura that this is not necessarily what a girl should go into. I will totally go back and tell myself that you were at heart an engineer. You are at heart an engineer. Maths was a tool for you, but you are an engineer, and go and do the engineering. I still didn't nothing changed in my life that much, but this also a larger message. I want this to be a subliminal message to all the girls out there. Don't do any such decisions which are something where you think that okay, this is not what typically girls do. Like specifically do those things that typically girls don't do. Just go ahead and do it. That's what I would tell myself also.
Thank you so much, ladies. I'm not exaggerating when I say that my heart is really full listening to all the inspirational messages that everyone has given. Thank you so much for sharing with us, for talking about your journey and what lies ahead. And to all the women out there who are celebrating Women's Day, it's not about just a day, it's about a year. And, in small steps we can take giant leaps. Thank you so much for staying with us and asking questions, being able to participate in this webinar and this roundtable. Thanks a lot for watching and staying with us this evening. Wishing everyone once again a very happy Women's Day.
I invent for AI to replicate human vision.
I invent for well-being.
To analyze genome sequences.
For contactless health monitoring.
To accelerate computing.
to make software bug-free,
to reinforce privacy, to integrate renewable energy,
to build efficient solar cells,
to reduce food wastage.
I invent for an energy efficient future.